with liberty and roll call, please.
Trustee Polly.
Present.
Trustee Lappin.
Here.
Clerk Palovich here. Treasurer Ellery Summers. Here. Trustee Kroll.
Here.
Trustee Reiner.
Here.
Supervisor Skibby.
Here. Moving forward in the agenda to the adoption of said agenda, there is one addition I'd like to make. It would be under new business, item number 6 at the very end. It'll be Dixon Piper Road Tower. With that, are there any other additions, corrections, or amendments to the agenda as presented? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda as amended. We have a motion on the table to approve the amended agenda. Is there support?
Support.
It's been supported. Further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of adopting the amended agenda signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Oppose the same. Agenda adopted. This is our first opportunity for public comment. If you have public comment in person or online, in person, please stand at the podium, state your name. You have 3 minutes. Online, if you have public comment, please raise your hand or send a quick note so that we can identify you. Is there any public comment? Thank you.
Kevin Ginter, guessing you all know me. Yesterday, I said I'd be remiss if I didn't step up and take every opportunity to give my perspective about the, I mean, I don't know what else you would call it, but you know, you can call it contract for services, but and the reality of the whole thing is that the fire department of the town, Alpena Township Fire Department, is being taken over by the city of Alpena. You can call it a merger, you can call it whatever sounds kind of politically correct, but it's really the township fire department is going away. I mean, I don't know where else this is going. I don't see anybody, I don't see most people stepping forward with some kind of a plan to figure this thing out. My first concern when this whole thing started was that a government agency has a commitment to its own citizens and taxpayers to provide some type of emergency service under their own umbrella. There's a multitude of benefits that come from fostering and supporting your own fire department. I mean, these are without question. Only in a situation where there's no support, almost no support for the township and the firefighters, that I think we're in this place that we're at today. I mean, there's so many things that I look at least from my perspective, and go, yeah, that doesn't make sense, and that doesn't make sense, and this doesn't make sense. And I thought at some point, you know, I would have liked to have spoke up sooner, but I kept thinking, okay, somebody's going to put this to halt. Somebody's going to go, train wreck. Somebody do something that makes sense. When the board last meeting,
30 seconds.
30 seconds. Okay, I don't want to miss this opportunity, but I'd really like to be serious, but I don't think anybody's listening, because I believe the 1st of July, this township fire department is going away. So in the somewhat in the spirit of humor and somewhat in the spirit of, this is, I think, where we're at right now, is the last board meeting I went to, the township supervisor had a remarkable sense of drama. And this word is for outstanding drama at a township board meeting, where everybody else answers after their name, yes or no on a vote, but you hemmed and hawed about your no vote. So this award is for you and your outstanding drama.
Thank you for your comment, Mr. Ginter. Are there any other public comments? Anybody online have public comment? Seeing none, is there a motion on the table to make payment of bills?
I'll make that motion.
We have a motion on the table to make payment of the bills. Is there
Support.
support? It's been moved and supported. Any further discussion? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Clerk Flavich, yes. Treasurer Ellery Summers.
Yes.
Trustee Kroll,
Yes.
Trustee Reiner.
Yes.
Trustee Polly.
Yes.
Trustee Lappin.
Yes.
Supervisor Skibby.
Yes. Moving forward in the agenda, the minutes of May 24th, 2021, which was a regular meeting. Are there any comments or a motion to approve the minutes as presented?
Make that motion to approve the minutes.
We have a motion on the table to approve the minutes of May 24th. Is there support?
Support.
Yeah, it's been supported. Is any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of approving the minutes of May 24th signify by saying aye. Opposed, the same. Minutes approved. We are moving now forward to our presentation. Today we have Alpena County Veterans Affairs. And by all means, sir.
Good morning. This is more of an introduction than a presentation. I basically just wanted to come out and introduce myself to the township board. I'm the new director over at Alpena County Veterans Affairs. George Stevens retired at the end of December. So I just wanted to kind of, come out, let everybody, I wanted to introduce myself, meet everyone. And just let you know that, that we're here. We're over in the Harborside Mall, right across the hall from the Alpena, the Veterans Affairs Clinic. And we're here to help veterans connect with their benefits.
What's your name?
Dan Purge, Perge. And I did bring some flyers for you all to kind of see the benefits that we assist the veterans in the county with. We basically are there to assist the veterans connect with their VA benefits and kind of cut the red tape for them as far as, assisting them with applying for those benefits and getting them connected. Whether it's compensation for a disability or a pension or a survivor's pension for those that qualify, getting them enrolled in medical care, things like that. But I don't want to take up too much of your time. I know you're very busy. I wanted to, introduce myself, let you know some of the services that we provide. And if you have any veterans with any questions or, if they need assistance, please send them our way and we'd be glad to help them. But I'll open it up to any questions that you might have for me or.
One, there is, before you do leave, through the border review process, we also go through veterans exemptions for taxes. So if you could make your introduction, the door on the right before you hit the doors,
Okay.
Chris Lewis, our head assessor.
He's off today.
Always off today.
He's off.
So I will be your contact person, but if there's anything that we can do to help that process, it's usually just a single sheet. But that's usually our biggest interaction with our veterans in our community. So if
Okay.
there's other ways that we can foster better communication,
Sure.
most definitely.
All right. And now, I don't know if you want me to leave these here or leave them at the desk. But just some flyers and some business cards. So,
Okay.
if you need to get a hold of us or if you have a veteran that stops in that, might need assistance, you can
Most definitely.
send them our way.
Are there any questions for Mr. Perch?
Please leave the information.
Sure, I will. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for your time, sir. Moving forward into correspondence, we have one notice from Alpena Power Company, two correspondence from Alpena County Road Commission, and yet another FERC, or the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, dam safety surveillance and monitoring reports that I honestly did.
Mine's on
Yeah, we can have a hard stop because I think I recall. So anyways, I don't want any But anyways, I'll entertain a motion to receive and file the correspondence as presented.
So moved.
We have a motion and support. Any further discussion?
It is nice to see. I wish I could see more information on the regulatory body that's on the dams. Their only comment was is that there's no safety concerns.
Well, then I would implore, because I've been putting these in our agenda every time we have correspondence. In the township, we currently only have one hydroelectric facility, and that is 4 Mile. But as we all know, as residents of this community, we actually have an archaic hydroelectric function and near failure reports that have been noted in previous minutes and correspondence. This is a major concern. If we as Michiganders don't take note of what happened at Midland, shame on us. We should be doing our due diligence and staying on top of that matter extremely in a steadfast manner. So, because if one dam fails, all three will fail by their engineering standards as it stands currently. So, if you have more in-depth questions, we can.
Yeah, it was just interesting because I happened to be going up, I wanted to take a shortcut one time through M30. And there was only one little problem. That entire bridge was destroyed. And the amount of damage that occurred is just amazing to see what destruction can occur. That was a substantial bridge too. It was just gone.
Yeah. Well, and it's eye-opening because even with my time with Trout Unlimited doing hydroelectric studies, it was, I think we are almost at 3,000 FERC regulated dams in the state of Michigan.
Yeah.
And engineering for dams and hydroelectric facilities is designed for a 75-year life expectancy.
Yeah.
And over a decade ago, over 90% of those hydroelectric facilities were past their engineered life expectancy. So
Yeah.
it's
It would be
it's-
catastrophic to Alpena if the 7 Mile dam went.
well, if the 7 Mile dam goes, 4 Mile dam
Oh,
goes,
sure,
and if those two
absolutely.
dams go, 9 Mile goes, and hello, Lake Huron. So with that being said, it's a very scary topic when you actually start digging into it. But moving forward, did we vote on the correspondence?
No, we have not.
All those in favor of receiving and filing signify by saying aye. Aye. Oppose the same. Moving forward to old business. Fire department update. Chief Robbins, you have anything to update?
I'll be very brief. Our numbers for May, I'll give to you. From South Station, 39 medical calls, 4 personal injury accidents, 16 service calls, 3 false alarms. We had been 4 grass fires, 2 hazmat runs for a total of 68, and we had 2 medicals out in Maple Ridge. So that leaves us with a total per annum right now of 281 calls on the year out of South. Brush truck remains out of service, being repaired at Alpena transmission for faulty radiator. And we're continuing to try to outfit engine 1 and get that online as soon as possible. So unless there are any questions.
Yeah, I have one, because I had to stop and after I talked with Mr. Hanson out at the 32 station yesterday after I stopped at the recycling center. To notice that the new Tango still has not, or Tango 3 isn't in service and Tango 1 or 2 isn't stored out at 32 yet.
They both are still down at Southside, but Tango 3, the old one that was repaired, is in service.
Okay.
So
Okay. Any other questions for Dave?
I guess, so the 2 new ambulances are supposed to be out at 32, right?
well, they're supposed to be out of service. The one is still at Southside.
Okay. And you're taking care of it?
Yeah.
Okay.
You mentioned the number 16, but I didn't get written down what was the 16 calls? What was that for?
Service calls.
15, service.
39, 4, 16
15.
16
16.
service
16,
calls.
16 service calls.
service.
Any other questions for Dave?
Thank you.
Thank you. Chief Orbish, do you have anything to update at this time? No? Okay. And obviously, the city council did meet. We have not had their rebuttal sent to us as of yet. As to that potential contract language as a draft. So we can talk about that when we get it. I would suggest that both trustee Reinhardt, trustee Lappin, when we finally get it, we can start that conversation. But I think one thing that we need to discuss today is something that we've always said that we're going to do, and that is a public input session. Obviously, we don't have their determination from the city council meeting as of last night, but trustee Foley was in attendance at the meeting. Would you like to give an update of?
Well, the city responded to our proposal, and they came back with numbers, and I believe it was in the paper today. But we have not received anything officially. I guess until we get that, we really can't talk a lot about it. But I think it was extremely gone over. Details were questioned, and I think from what I saw, I just feel that the presentation and what they did was gone through very thoroughly.
Thank you for that. To the point of the public input session, which is a mandatory step of that we've said that we are going to do from day one. A couple dates that I would like people to look at and give consideration to would be the 23rd and 24th. Both those days are available.
This one?
Of this month, correct. At 6 p.m. Does anybody know that they have an outstanding conflict with either of those two dates and time?
The Wednesday and the Thursday.
It's a Wednesday and a Thursday, correct?
Where would we have this?
Well, and that's another part of the discussion. We can have it here, obviously. Now we're up to with changes to the opening process. We are up to a larger capacity, or we can, if it's so being, we can look at securing a venue such as the Aplex or a more open, or we could actually probably with the weather now, potentially have an outdoor, but then that has its own logistical nightmares in terms of audio, et cetera.
So our next township meeting is the 21st.
Our next township meeting is actually the subsequent week, the 28th.
or 28th.
I would. I can see the Thursday for personal reasons, but I can be available either night.
Does, I mean,
Both work for me.
Both work for me.
okay. So you want to just call it for Thursday, the 24th at 6 p.m.
Sure.
and
The 24th, did you say?
24th, that is the Thursday, yes.
We would
Yes.
not have had an opportunity to review anything.
We're gonna have to review it. I mean, because I did get a call from the mayor. Rachel is not in the office today. That's probably why we haven't had this emailed to us. It was obviously they met last night. There was obviously, we weren't gonna be taking any action on it today, no matter what. But as soon as we get it, that's why I would request that we meet as a committee and look at it first. And if we need to call a special meeting, or because like, as you said, trustee Lappin, our next meeting is on the 28th. So
Who
we'll
would
have,
be in this meeting?
what?
Who would be in this meeting?
It would be us as a board and potentially Chief Forbush and Deputy Chief Edmonds
Just
to,
for the input session?
for
is
the
that what you're
input
talking
session?
about?
Yeah.
yeah, so. Yes,
I
trustee
think we
Boyd.
need a special meeting so the board knows exactly what everything is coming back from the city. We don't know that as of yet, so we need to know that before we have our input session.
Yeah, I don't disagree with both of those comments, and that was gonna be my next part, but I also want to make sure that we have on the books, that people know that we're moving forward with an input session. I have no problem with calling a special meeting to discuss what the contract looks like coming back from the city. I don't think anybody should have a problem with having that discussion. Well, with that being said, we've concurred that, so is there any recommendations from trustees of a location?
I was thinking the upper conference room with the Aplex might be best. I mean, we may not get that many people to attend. And we could use this facility, but I don't want to be in a position where we overflow the room to the point where people can't be heard or hear. So that upper room holds, I think, up to upwards of 150 people or something like that.
Okay. Would everybody, you want me to reach out and see if that's available?
I'm there
Oh, yeah, you're
3 times a
pickleball.
week.
Could you then
I could do that
Si-
tomorrow.
let me know if you can secure that tomorrow? Otherwise, we know that we have a date and a time. So with that being said,
Well, we don't even know if that's available. at that
we don't
time.
know if that's
Right.
available. So there's some variables. So one thing that we can discuss, so that we're at least all on the same page and looking at one document, is calling a special meeting once we receive a draft.
So we have a
Yes.
special meeting before the 24th.
But yes, at this point, yes, yes.
But we have a backup date, so we aren't going back and forth, that in the event that the 24th that the Aplex is not available.
Well, I can check, when I check, I can see if there's a backup date.
Well, I mean, could the backup date be the 23rd and 24th?
Sure,
Yeah,
absolutely.
that's what I'm
Okay.
saying.
Sure.
So then you'll let me know tomorrow.
Yep.
Okay, but what does everybody's schedule look like, if we're to call, because that puts us
I'm thinking about 6 PM meeting.
for the input session. I think that would afford the most amount of people that have anything to ask. This won't be a public comment. This will be a Q&A. Because one thing that we also have to be mindful of is falsehoods and misrepresentations. And so facts will, as they always have, rise to the top.
Nathan, you're gonna wanna have a meeting with you and Russ and Steve first before we have a
Yes.
special board meeting too.
Oh, yeah, yeah, that's just a committee. I mean, that's doable, I think, pretty much, at least with Steve's schedule until noon every day. So Russ, that would have to be your schedule. That would be the most tricky,
And that is for a committee meeting.
just a committee
You're
meeting.
trying to set it now? Here?
Well, we can schedule that, but I would like to do is schedule a special meeting. If we can meet as a committee, maybe yet this week, well, as soon as we get a document to discuss, we could look at calling a special meeting the 16th, 17th, or 18th.
What is the 16th?
16th is a Wednesday.
I'm off Thursday and Friday, so I won't be available 17th or 18th.
Okay, so is everybody potentially available the 16th?
Sorry.
At what time?
I'm
Morning?
open. I mean, because really, I mean, we're not going to be voting on it. We just need to look at it and have that. It's not going to be a full vote, so we could do it during the day if you want to do it.
I'm not
11.
available after 4, so.
11 would be good.
Could we do it from, 11 or 12? So
And what was your comment? Sorry,
I
Cass.
said I'm not available after 4,
After 4?
So it'd
So-
be at 11.
11. would work.
So is everybody in favor of a special meeting the 16th at 11? Okay, so then we will call a special meeting on the 16th at 11 a.m. Get that posted. And that way we'll have data that we can actually discuss. So. Okay, well, with that being said, I'll wait to hear back from you in terms of the availability of the Aplex on either the 23rd or the 24th at 6 PM for a public input session. We will call a special meeting for the 16th at 11 a.m. And then go from there into our public input.
I'd like to make some comments before we move off of this subject.
Yes.
So I'd like the board to think about a few things. Think about the services we offer our citizens. Every budget year, we continue to make cuts because our operating budget is insufficient. The ad hoc committee was formed to examine the fire department budget earlier this year. That committee did so and discovered the fire millage also was not adequate to run a modern fire department. The committee proposed a budget for the year and the board approved that budget. It appears like the board did not like the proposed budget and have continued to pursue a contract with the city. A dollar amount cannot be placed on the value of our fire department. I know it would be much easier to give our fire department to the city, but I ask you again to think about what services we offer our citizens. It would be a lot of hard work to rebuild our fire department, but often the easy choice is not the right choice. We can rebuild this department if we join together and support our fire department. I have never felt so disgusted as I did after our last meeting. I was ashamed to be part of this board and contemplated resigning from my position. It was painful to watch this board negotiate a price to replace our fire department. I have never seen anyone negotiate a price at the high end as to not offend the city. I don't think you would do that in your own personal finances. Would you negotiate the price you would pay for a car or your home at the high end as to not offend the salesperson? Or would you negotiate to get the best deal for your own budget? Shortly after the meeting, a business caught fire near the township north station. I discovered that our south station was not dispatched to assist in the fire. The structure was a complete loss, and I wonder if the outcome could have been different. I know the city cannot cover all of the city and the township. If we have a few incidents at the same time, someone will lose. If we had a mass casualty incident, there's not enough resources now. What services do we offer our citizens? Currently, our water department, building department are contracted out. We are now looking at contracting out our fire department to the city. I cannot understand why we would think it's a good idea to contract with the city for fire services when we still can't resolve the water litigation issue. The city isn't transparent about their financial standing of their water system, and now we think a contract for fire services will work out. If we no longer have the fire department in-house, then I think we should consider making our elected officials part-time positions. That could be a money savings if we are serious about being financially responsible. If we give away our fire department, we will be left with two services, if you want to call it that. We will, in essence, take the people's money and run elections. I cannot in good conscience do that as a trustee. I see great possibilities for this township going forward. I would like us to work together to provide a plan going forward to make improvements and not always be looking to cut the budget to shift money from one line item to another. I'm asking you to join me in supporting our own fire department. Our fire staff has been demoralized during this process, and I can't blame them for how they feel. It is hard to push forward when you see the board putting more effort into courting the city fire chief and dismantling their own fire department. As disheartening as this process has been, I truly believe this can still be fixed. We support our own township department. The staff will make this fire department a modern organization ready to take on the future demands. So I had to put that in the writing after the last meeting, and you can take that for what you want. So.
Thank you very much, Trustee Kroll. Is there anything to add to Trustee Kroll's letter?
Well, in my, it's not so much a response, it's just my position. I came on this board believing that this township had in the past alienated other units of government and that needed to be corrected. I also came on this board believing that the fire department, for the necessary services needed and the level of capabilities within the department were such that we could get as good or better service than we could provide through having our own department. And we could do it within the budget of the millage. I believe it's possible we found a way to do that. I have asked for, and Mr. Ginter was one back in November that approached me as he knew I was coming on the board after the meeting at the Aplex. I've heard again, a couple times from him and others here, but I've asked for specifics. Tell me, what is the benefit of a township fire department that is not putting 2 people in each station, not putting 2 paramedically trained people in each station, and is capable of double the response from each station that we have now. So why do we reinvent for a total population of something less than 20,000 people? Why do we reinvent or try to create 2 departments when one, in my view, can handle the task? And again, that goes back now to cooperation with other units of government. So I'm looking for people to show me what these advantages are that are greater by having our own department than what we can get through this contract. I have yet to get any specifics. It's all feel-good stuff. And so I don't know what services our department can provide now that can't be provided through this contract. I'm not tied to this contract. I want you to know that. And I'm ready for public input. Just give us some specifics that we should chew on. But I don't have any right now. And I've not been given any, and I've asked. So that's where I'm coming from. And I think it's good that Mr. Crowell, Cash, hopefully we're friends, has stated his place in his piece, because I think that's what a board should be. And that disagreeing with a majority of the board, if there is a majority one way or the other, is not a bad thing. I'm very willing to do that, as you know. So it's healthy for him to have said what he said for this board and for the public. And I hope you will give me, and I know you will, the same consideration when I'm in the minority, if I am. I don't know if I am on this issue or not, but on other issues, when I speak up and say my piece as Cash did today, I appreciate that he did so, but that's where I'm at right now.
And to have a rebuttal to that, Trustee Kroll, I see it as our primary job, especially myself as supervisor and all of us as a board, is to be fiscally responsible. And so you state that we're not providing services because we're contracting. If you look throughout the entire state and the entire nation, small communities are forced, if not forced, they have to at least do so in a cooperative manner to sustain the services for their community. And so even though we do contract, we are providing services at a cost-effective means. Now, can we always explore and discuss what future potentials and millage needs would be? Most definitely. There's a million other revenue streams that we need to discuss. I thought I was probably going to hear from you post our last meeting of start hammering out what revenue streams were and all potential functions. I know you're an extremely busy individual, but we are providing services, and our primary function from at least my standpoint is to do so without putting the burden as a tax basis on our public where possible. And I think that there's discussion that should be had before putting a higher millage burden on our tax base. I think there's conversations and rooms for, and yes, it was painful, I believe, for every trustee at this table in the spirit of transparency, of which we're still considered that we're extremely opaque, to negotiate an open session. That is atypical from my standpoint, to the almost to the level of asinine. But you also know that if we went into closed session to negotiate, which we should, we'd also be hearing the same arguments of we're not being transparent. So I appreciate your point. I've always appreciated you. And I think that is the best part of this board, is that we don't always have to agree. We have to, what we must do is look at the greater good for all 9,100 plus citizens. And if we forget that, maybe we should all resign. So are there any other comments? But I do appreciate your point of view, Mr. Crowe. Moving forward. See, I get awards for reasons, right, Mr. Ginter? Yeah, so moving forward to the North Point Shores Special Assessment. Tim, did you, or Michelle, did you have, this is our second hearing. So now this is, you have all the paperwork.
I'm prepared
Okay,
to read this.
Thank you, because I did not bring my whole North Point Shores folder with me, but I could run and grab it.
I got the pertinent part where we're at now. Public hearings involved in the special assessment project. This is the second and final public hearing, and a special assessment roll has been prepared. And so we will have a public hearing now to allow citizens to object to the roll. And that's the requisite to go into the tax credit. So they need to make their objection in writing at this hearing. And then following the hearing, the township board will, if it chooses, adopt resolution number 5, which confirms the roll. And this is for the final step of the project. So Nathan, I'll ask for a motion.
we can motion to go into open public.
To go into this public hearing on special assessment roll.
Oh, we have a motion to go.
I'm sorry, who made that motion?
Russ.
Thank you, Ross.
Support.
We have a motion and support to open up the public hearing for the North Shore Special Assessment.
You want a roll call?
Yes, please.
Trustee Reiner.
Yes.
Trustee Polly.
Yes.
Trustee Lappin.
Yes.
Clerk Flavich, yes. Treasurer Ellery Summers.
Yes.
Trustee Kroll,
Yes.
Supervisor Skibby.
Yes.
So we're just wondering if there are any citizens present or online who wish to make any comments regarding the proposed special assessment role for North Point Shores Drive Maintenance Special Assessment.
Anybody in person? Two gentlemen here in representation. Is there anybody online that has public comment for the North Point Shores Special Assessment District?
Shall Russ just ask me the question I was going to ask you? Have you received anything in writing?
No, I have not.
Okay,
I have not either.
okay, then
I'd enter it. If there's no comment, I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing for the North Point Shores Special. We have a motion by trustee Lappin and support by trustee Reiner. Further discussion? Seeing none, roll call again.
Trustee Polly.
Yes.
Trustee Lappin.
Yes.
Clerk Flavich, yes. Treasurer Ellery Summers.
Yes.
Trustee Kroll,
Yes.
Trustee Reiner.
Yes.
Supervisor Skibby.
Yes. And then do you have the resolution? for you?
There's resolution number 5.
Is it 5 or 6?
5.
That was included in the meeting packet.
Yep.
Everybody should have
Yep.
a copy of it.
So it would be a motion to adopt resolution number 5.
I'll make that motion.
We have a motion on the table to approve resolution number 5. Is there support?
I'll support that.
It's been moved and supported. Further discussion?
we have other resolutions? Is this a special assessment resolution?
It is a special assessment
We
resolution.
have other numbers for.
Yep, this is not our ordinances per se or resolution
So it's a special assessment resolution this time.
for this district.
Okay.
Correct. Are there any other questions? Otherwise, I'll entertain a motion to approve resolution number 5 as presented in regards to the North Point Shores Drive Maintenance Special Assessment for 2021. Is there?
We made the motion.
Oh, we already had a roll call
Laura
vote.
made
Yep,
the
sorry.
motion, I
And Russ supported. Oh,
No,
you
I
supported.
She
supported.
supported.
So we have a motion and support. Roll call vote, please.
Trustee Lappin,
Yes.
clerk Palovich, yes. Treasurer Ellery Summers,
Yes.
trustee Kroll,
Yes.
trustee Reiner,
Yes.
trustee Polly,
Yes.
supervisor Skibby.
Yes.
Just a reminder to Michelle, there's that document warrant for collection.
I have it already. I'm gonna give it to Laura this afternoon.
All right.
So moving forward out of old business into new, Michelle?
We have a new deputy clerk as of last Tuesday evening. Haley was sworn in as my deputy clerk. We need to make a motion so that we can get her on the bank accounts and take Kelly off.
So
So if I can make the motion.
you can always make the motion.
I'd like to make a motion that as of today at 8 o'clock, at June 8th at 12 p.m., all current township bank resolutions be revoked and that the necessary township officials, to include Treasurer Laura Ellery Summers, Clerk Michelle P. Palovich, Deputy Treasurer Rhonda Himes, and Deputy Clerk Haley Birmingham, be authorized to execute new bank deposit resolutions with PNC Bank, M Bank, and Alpino Conant Credit Union, naming Charter Township of Alpena Treasurer and Clerk and their deputies as authorized agents.
I'll support that. For discussion?
And we need to add TCF Bank in there.
Okay,
As the motion maker, are you friendly to that amendment?
I'm friendly to that.
And I'm as well with the support.
I guess I would ask the same, kind of on the same vein, that any of these banks we know are subject to name change. Does the motion then have to come back each and every time that there's a name change, or is this a sort of?
Put head
as
sec
long-
after it. You know.
Yeah, is any bank that has a sign up with Velcro should be subject to change. So I just wonder does this have to come, if there is a name change in a bank, or if we choose to go somewhere else, do we just make another motion
If we
amending
choose to
it?
go somewhere else.
If
but
we-
there's
Right,
another,
but if there's a
okay.
name change, for
Motion.
example, Chemical Bank turned into TCF Bank, they merged.
Right,
We didn't have to bring that before the board, but if we chose to say not go to one of these banks and open a new account at another bank, that would come before the board.
all right.
Would it be better if we just said and successor and any successor?
We could.
Yeah, that's-
Yeah, well,
That
that's
successors or
Because I know
signs.
TCF,
Not a sign.
Velcro signs.
yes. I mean, in the fall, TCF will be merging with Huntington Bank, so if you
Oh,
put
I
in successor.
So,
Yeah.
okay, so
And
is there,
successors.
so with the language through discussion to the motion maker, who has already made a friendly amendment to the second motion, are you friendly to
Yes.
this last? And I am well as support. Very good discussion and check. So roll call, we'll do that.
Who supported?
I did.
Clerk Palovich, yes. Treasurer Ellery Summers.
Yes.
Trustee Kroll,
Yes.
Trustee Reiner.
Yes.
Trustee Polly.
Yes.
Trustee Lappin.
Yes,
Supervisor Skibby.
Yes. Yes, congratulations, Deputy Clerk.
welcome to the nut house.
Yeah. Yeah, so moving forward with new business is a discussion that we've been having for some time. And we do have Larry Fox online. Neely, if you could unmute Larry Fox. Larry is with C2AE, our engineers in the water department. This is for the proposal and the cost for having C2AE move forward and the the costs associated with helping us through the RD process. This was above my $500 threshold of expenditures. And the compensation for said services in this contract would be to the tune of $3,500. Mr. Fox, do you have anything to add, sir?
No, Supervisor Skibby, I think you've kind of covered it. There's some fair amount of detail in the actual proposal itself that goes through the requirements that we have to meet for a rural development application. Fortunately, this is a fairly straightforward one, and so it's just meter replacement. A lot of the normal requirements are waived, but I think the proposal's fairly clear and straightforward. So I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions for Mr. Fox?
I have one, that's Steve Lappin. On the cover letter that you present, it's noted on the paragraph at the top of page 2 that all existing water system components and are either on land owned by the township or dedicated easements, and that you talk about this can be relatively expensive and time consuming. Is that just sort of standard language, or is there something that suggests that we may have some infrastructure that is not on our land?
So actually, yeah, that's kind of a standard thing because it's one of the rural development requirements that's over and above most other funding agencies, where you have to demonstrate to them that you have complete ownership of your system that they're investing in, basically. Alpena Township system is relatively new compared to a lot of communities. So I would expect that your water tower or your booster stations have all been the property properly secured, or easements established, and water mains constructed within the right of way. But it's just something I wanted to point out because it does hold us up at times in some of these applications with an old community where they don't have the documentation. So it's not, this is a lesser concern for your community than many others, but I wanted to make sure at least we pointed it out. And then also on the funding, normal rural development is a 40-year term on the loan. But in this case, because they determine or deem that water meters don't have a useful life of 40 years, that your loan term would likely be limited to around 30 years. But those are just the only two key points that I had other than the standard requirements.
All right, so even if we, just so long as we own it, is the standard of care then?
Correct, own it or have an easement for the right to be on it.
Yeah, all right.
I just went through this with another township, and so Larry described it as USDA requirement, and so either easements, just to make sure there's not some gap where our station's on somebody else's property or I have permission to. So it's usually a title search followed by me, then fill out the USDA form stating that yes, you have title.
So I'm also thinking a little longer term. I'm thinking with regard to the discussions that we're having currently with the city on the water system. In some of the current, has that current language originally been submitted to anybody? I think some of that language is out.
The original language as to
On that, the agreement that we're working on right now? That
And-
general knowledge
amongst the board or amongst
people?
no.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how to ask
Yeah.
the question.
Yeah,
I will withdraw that.
you'll have that ability to ask that question
Yeah.
a little bit later in today's
All right.
meeting. Are there any other questions for Mr. Fox? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve moving forward with C2AE's proposal for $3,500 to secure RD development preliminary engineering report and application assistance.
So moved.
We have a motion on the table. Is there support?
I'll support that.
It's been moved and supported. Any further discussion?
My normal question.
Which line item?
Budget.
Yes, this is actually part of the CIP, when we went through the budget process. Yeah, so we did budget for this and actually in hope that will be an acceptable applicant for rural development opportunity for funds. I think right now we're in the ballpark of this project being $1.2 million. So with that being said, roll call vote, please.
Treasurer Ellery Summers,
Yes.
trustee Kroll,
Yes.
trustee Reiner,
Yes.
trustee Foley,
Yes.
trustee Lappin,
Yes.
clerk Palovich, yes, supervisor Skibby.
Yes. Okay. Moving forward, well, Kath, you might as well take the podium because you got a string of pearls before us.
Good morning, everyone. So where do you want to start?
Station.
yeah. Pressure reducing valves.
Okay.
Valves.
I generally prepare a cover memo for each of these items, just to explain to the board the background in regard to this. So the water booster station located on West M32 provides pressure and flow to the west part of the township or outside of the township out to the CRTC. And there are also residents and other businesses on the intervening line. So the pressure reducing valves are a critical piece of equipment. Basically, they allow the pumps to cycle on and off without creating a sudden surge or drop in pressure, AKA a water hammer in that line. So they have a lot of moving parts in them, a lot of little valves and O-rings and diaphragms and electrical components that are critical to make sure that these work correctly, that pressure is provided, and also that we don't create damage in that water main because of any kind of pressure surge or drop. So we're requesting, Jet Pump is the regional service provider for these PRVs, pressure reducing valves. And they are a qualified provider basically from that manufacturer. And so that is basically a sole source in regard to this because of the criticality of the type of equipment it is. You don't want someone who is not qualified working on this type of equipment in order to ensure that it works properly and that the warranty and lifespan of the equipment is preserved. So I don't have that piece of paper in front of me because I didn't grab my copy. And so I will defer to Mr. Skibby in regard to the amount.
Yes, $22,612.15 for this project. And at this point, if there's any questions for Ms. Wynn.
Do we currently have a potential hammering problem, or is it
No, it's-
existing now, or is it just precautionary?
Well, if you start to read through that memo, you can see that they're starting to evidence signs of potential failure. We have some O-rings and other wearing parts that are starting to fail and cause some leaking and indications that we would like to head this off at the pass. You don't want to wait until you have a water hammer to make these corrective actions.
I did see that in your memo, and I just wondered if this is imminent or if this is.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's going to happen in the next few days, but I don't want to get to a point where we push the envelope in regard to this type of equipment.
Yes, trustee. Paul.
Preventative maintenance.
It's corrective maintenance, basically. There's some components of both. We perform preventive maintenance on it per the manufacturer's guidelines in regard to routine things such as grease and oil and exercising it and et cetera like that. But what the components, if you read through it, there are a lot of wearing components that are going to be replaced in regard to this, including a lot of the piloting valves. So in order to allow that pressure to equalize, there are smaller valves that put water pressure on either side of a large diaphragm system, and all those piloting valve systems and all the tubing and electrical that goes to that is the part that is most prone to failure. Especially, you have to understand that this is a very corrosive environment. That one time there was a chlorine feed system in that booster station that caused a lot of corrosion to the instrumentation and electrical inside that building, and also it's subject to temperature changes and a lot of condensation. So this is something that is more in tune with rebuilding them. And at that point in time, their lifespan will be extended significantly.
Any other questions for Ms. Nguyen?
I just wanted to ask, so it's option B and option A with the adder of the Dura clean stem, right?
Yeah.
For both things.
So what is this now, bring the shuffling back to this new system?
Generally speaking, when you have electrical components, you look at a 10-year lifespan. Other parts of the process, the valve bodies themselves, which are ductile iron or cast, are very robust and could last another 20 years. But these diaphragms and small parts may have to be reassessed in about another 10 years. So approximately $220 a year,
Cost of doing business.
a little bit.
So I can appreciate some of these issues being unique, but are we exploring from time to time, trying to use local vendors?
We have, and this would fall under the purview of someone who'd be like a mechanical contractor. We have been in touch with Johnson & Wood. They just opened an office here in Alpena. And so they do not have a full mechanical crew there. So they would be deploying it. And like I said, they also are not a manufacturer certified representative. So, and like I said, because of the criticality of this piece, we're looking at a manufacturer certified representative for this.
Any other questions for Ms. Nguyen? If not, I'd entertain a motion to approve the recommendation of moving forward with jet pump for the pressure booster station pressure reducing valves repairs to the tune of $22,612.15.
I'll make that motion.
A motion on the table. Is there support? It's been moved and supported. Further discussion?
Budgeted for this as well. in our budget.
This is within that 250,000.
No, this is going through us. That way you're talking,
Yeah,
The
okay,
O&M?
Yeah.
Yeah, well-
It's built into our contract.
correct.
Yeah.
Well,
No.
no, this is outside of that because if we went through them, that would have
the
incurred the
10%.
additional 5% admin fee. So this is actually through us saving us that 5%. This is a capital improvement after this expenditure. Roll call, please.
Trustee Kroll,
Yes.
trustee Reiner,
Yes.
trustee Polly,
Yes.
trustee Lappin,
Yes.
clerk Palovich, yes. Treasurer Ellery Summers.
Yes.
Supervisor Skibby.
Yes. This went on to the next concern.
Which is, I don't.
Michigan.
It's Michigan Lift Station pump
okay.
installation.
So the Michigan Lift Station, which is your main pump station, all the other parts of the sewer system feed into the Michigan Lift Station, and then that transfers or conveys sewage to the city's sewer collection system and then on to the wastewater treatment plant. That pump station a few months ago that you voted to replace the pump that is in there with a direct replacement. And now we are looking at the cost to reinstall that pump correctly. This is basically, for those of you who might be in a commercial industrial, is almost like a millwright function where they're making sure everything is plumb, level, correctly situated, fastened, wired in, tested for correct rotation, et cetera. So we did solicit more than one proposal for this because this is a typical mechanical contractor function. And so those prices are delineated in the cover memo in front of you.
Motion to approve Kerr Pump and Supply as the mechanical contractor to do the installation.
We have a motion.
I'll support that.
It's been moved and supported to move forward with Kerr Pump for the installation of the new pump at the Michigan Lift Station. Further discussion? Seeing none, roll call vote, please.
Trustee Reiner,
Yes.
trustee Polly,
Yes.
trustee Lappin,
Yes.
clerk Palovich, yes. Treasurer Ellery Summers,
Yes.
trustee Kroll,
Yes.
supervisor Skibby.
Yes. Okay, and then moving to the second to last item that you'll be representing is the lift station, the SCADA system, communication and
Okay.
alarms.
This is a budgeted expense. This was something that was part of the capital improvement plan that was approved for this budget year. Basically, the existing 8 main lift stations or 8 major lift stations in the township were originally set up to call the South Fire Station with any alarms, and at that point in time, that those alarms would be relayed to the DPW/water wastewater department staff. Currently, only 2 of the 8 have any kind of call capability, and it is not specifically reliable. A lot of them were relying now on the old sign that says, if you see the light on or hear an alarm, please call this number, which of course is totally reliant on citizen awareness and participation and not a very reliable type of system. Now, we do check those lift stations twice a week and do physical inspections on those, but at any given time, something could happen. Even if there was a localized power failure that only affected one lift station and we were not made aware of it, you run the potential for someone's like basement to back up with sewage or to have a sanitary sewer overflow or some other undesirable outcome. So these are critical that we have awareness of what's going on at these pump stations. UIS, you just approved for them to provide the instrumentation and communication upgrades for the booster pump station in an effort to keep all of the township's communication on one platform with one vendor. In order to simplify this, basically what they would do is you'd have a dashboard that the township and the DPW staff could access remotely that would allow them to monitor the operation of the equipment, and then also has an alarm functionality where it can call, email, text any number of people if there are problems at any of those locations. That this would be something similar to what you're looking at the booster station, only for the lift stations. This, like I said, was budgeted in the CIP. And so the reason that there's only one vendor represented is because it's to maintain consistency with that communication platform instead of starting to have multiple different vendors for these types of systems.
Are there any other questions for Kath in regards to the SCADA system and communications?
Couple. The contract is beautifully written in remarkably small letters.
I did not do that.
So can you tell me who the purchaser is in the contract? It talks about the purchaser. On the information here, it says that the customer is Alpena Township, but that doesn't necessarily mean that we're the purchaser.
In this case, you would be the purchaser. They're not necessarily synonymous. At times, you could have a subcontractor like us purchase that on your behalf, but as Mr. Skibby had pointed out, there's a cost benefit to directly purchasing these, and also in potential with equipment purchases, a tax exempt type of savings. So I believe in this particular contract, which I don't have the small print in front of me, but I believe that those terms are synonymous for your purposes.
All right, so although it's probably not a big issue on this one, because the language, as I understand it, on item 11, liability limitations, it limits the liability of the provider to what appears to be the value of the contract, if I'm understanding that correctly. And so in this particular case, because it's mostly electronic, it's probably not a significant issue. But if we get into these sorts of things into the future, where it could create a significant liability to the township, and if we see these kinds of language in here, maybe we don't want to be the purchaser in those situations. Maybe we want to have consistency with the contract that we have with F&V, which we modified, so that there isn't that limitation to just the dollar amount. It would be just sort of usual liability. And so then the only other question that I have is the $65,995. Does it include the fee that would be for cellular services and like that?
Yes. Yeah.
For
If
the
you,
first year?
for the first year.
And then the second year, it's whatever the fees happen to be?
Yeah, they've locked that price in. And I believe that was also in the booster station. And I think there's language in this, like I said, I don't have it in front of me, where they guarantee that price for a number of years. And this is the discussion when you talk about telemetry. So currently at your water towers that, the telemetry goes to the city's water plant so they can see the water tower levels. We cannot, by the way. That is radio telemetry. There's a significant upfront cost for radio telemetry because you have to build radio antennas and et cetera like that. And then a lot of the communication equipment other than that is similar, but then you don't have the ongoing cellular communication costs. However, when you're in a situation where you have a lot of tree cover or rolling topography or different situations like this, or a widespread area like the township, when you start looking at the cost of radio installation, and of course, trees continue to grow and et cetera like this could run into the millions of dollars to deploy a radio telemetry system. Then you avoid those ongoing cellular costs, but that capital cost upfront is very significant. So this is sort of where your upfront costs are minimal because, obviously cellular is a vertical technology. So it picks up a signal here, bounces it up and then back down to a receiver as opposed to radio, which is line of sight and a horizontal type of technology. So your upfront cost for deploying the system and the physical infrastructure is less, but then you do end up with cellular burden. Now, we've talked a little bit about the township and the fact that you have an understanding with AT&T, and that's something that we'll be talking to UIS about. They currently have a locked-in price with Verizon, but they are open to discussions in regard to purchasing or having the township have AT&T and find out whether you can secure the number of phone numbers or cell numbers that are needed for the system from AT&T and what that would look like coordinating that with UIS. So that is something that is on the table, but at this point in time is not laid out in that contract.
All right,
So if
well,
anything, the cost would go down
Yeah.
potentially in the future.
All right, no, what you say, it makes perfect sense. Technology is going to go that direction. So I just wanted to clarify that it was a subsequent years, it's just.
Yes.
expense.
Any other questions for Ms. Wind? I'll entertain a motion to approve the SCADA cost quote that is before us to the tune of $65,995.
I'll make that motion.
A motion on the table. Is there support?
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Further discussion? Seeing none, roll call vote, please.
Trustee Foley,
Yes.
trustee Lappin,
Yes.
clerk Palovich, yes. Treasurer Ellery Summers.
Yes.
Trustee Kroll,
Yes.
trustee Reiner,
Yes.
supervisor Skibby.
Yes. Last but not least, the return from Dixon Engineering.
So Dix Engineering had prepared specifications for the painting and rehabilitation of the Piper Tower. Those specifications came before you sometime before and were approved and released for bids. The bids were opened here at Township Hall, and the bid tab was prepared initially by the clerk's department and then verified by Dixon Engineering. The low bid is, I believe, was it
L&T painting.
L&T, okay. The CIP, the capital improvement plan, included $199,000 for Piper Tower painting and rehabilitation. The bids came in somewhere to the tune of 170,000 and change, and that includes an alternate for a mixer in the tower. The mixer in the tower is used for two reasons. One, to prevent the water from stratifying and having issues with maintaining a chlorine residual out in the distribution system. As it's, the fill, because those towers fill and draw from the same point at the bottom, they tend to end up with the water not being homogenized in there. So the mixer kind of keeps everything in circulation and helps with the chlorine residual, and also can help prevent ice damage. So there's twofold reason to have a mixer in there. So even with that additional cost, you're approximately 28,000 below the capital improvement plan amount for that project.
It's always good news. Are there any questions in regards to this bid specs that came back through Dixon for L&T Painting Incorporated?
You said there was another quote or other quote?
Yes, there were multiple quotes. And I don't know if they attached the bid tab to
They're
it.
not.
They did, I can go grab mine.
No,
Yeah, I
just-
think-
there was a lower one or
No, they were the low. They were the low.
this is the lowest.
This is the low bid, yes.
And Without comment on low bidder, I mean, are you comfortable with this company?
Yes, and they are a reputable company. They've done a lot of work. They're a Michigan-based company. And so Dixon's part of their responsibility when they were reviewing the bids as presented. So they actually were scanned and all the bids went directly to their engineer for review to make sure that they were meeting the specifications. There will be a follow-up item to this at a future, probably next board meeting maybe. Because now that that is going to be approved, now someone has to obviously do inspections on it. So Dixon will be preparing a cost for performing the on-site inspections and also the warranty inspection for the tower project. So if you want, we can solicit another bid for that because there are other companies that do those inspections, but because Dixon prepared the original specifications, that would be something that, and the other reputable company is Nelson Tank in Engineering and Tech. And they are very close in price. I mean, de minimis, amounts of difference between their costing, and they are both very reputable, but with Dixon having prepared the specs and done the bid review, it would make sense for them to also ultimately do the inspections and the warranty work.
Any other questions for Ms. Nguyen in regards to the 500,000 gallon pedosphere or spheroid or water tower?
Not a real serious one, but I would like to see it painted like a UFO. It'd be kind of cool.
So this is the third iteration of painting options. Well, okay, that would not hit the $170,540
Probably would add a little
contract
cost,
price.
yeah.
But at this
And
moment,
model drive.
yes, Laura,
I
you had a
did,
question.
and this tower, I think I asked this question at a prior meeting, but our logo would not be on this tower,
No.
correct?
No.
Okay,
No, this one does not.
because it's not.
Yeah,
in
if
our-
we're to really have that discussion, you have the only tower of the three that would have truly good visibility would be the M32 tower. 23 South Tower on southbound lane, you have visibility for maybe a couple mile stretch on 23 before the tree line interrupts it repeatedly. But at the cost of doing graphics on a tower, if we're to consider that, that would probably be the M32 tower. So, any other questions from Ms. Nguyen?
I just have one more comment. I appreciate your cover memos on each one of these things because it really does help explain. Because it's confusing enough if you were just trying to read it and understand it. So thank you.
No problem.
With that being said, I'll entertain a motion to approve the L&T painting contract to the tune of $170,540.
So moved.
We have a motion on the table. Is there support?
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Further discussion? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Trustee Lappin,
Yes.
Clerk Palovich, yes. Treasurer Ellen Summers,
Yes.
Trustee Kroll,
Yes.
Trustee Reiner,
Yes.
Trustee Polly,
Yes.
Supervisor Skibby.
Yes. That concludes our new business. I will entertain a motion to go into closed session. Oh, sorry.
I'll make that motion. It's gotta be right.
Yes.
Kath wanted it.
I didn't know if Kath wanted to talk.
Did you wanna
That's
say
Oh,
first.
did you want to touch on your O&M? Sorry, that was a kind of a last.
Don't entertain a motion, just let me read.
Trying to get caught up on reporting here. So your operations, your O&M report has the highlights of, or sometimes lowlights of what happened in the last couple months in regard to the water system. As you know, in the past months, we've had a significant number of water service leaks. Those have kind of slowed down until Mr. Skibby said something about them slowing down last weekend, and then we had one over the weekend. So he's not allowed to talk about this ever again. But anyway, so you can see that those highlights are kind of called out with a little bit of detail. And then there's a work order summary through April showing that as of today, the monthly totals for the work orders and the misdigs that we've been performing. Obviously, things start to get a little bit more busy in the spring and summer, especially with water service turn-ons and residents returning from out of town. I would like to call your attention to the maintenance cap, which is about $250,000 Mr. Lappin referred to earlier. That total summary is through what I have to date for May. $240,964.97, a significant proportion of which are water service repairs through subcontractors. That fund is, that 250,000 is for the contract year that ends in August. So we still have a couple months left on that contract. As our contract states with you guys, basically, we keep this accounting for you. It's your money. If we go over that, we definitely would work with you in regard to adjusting that budget line so that, for additional maintenance items, although we, try to be very aware of what is being spent. In the event in the future, if we were to be under that 250,000, we would reimburse you that amount. So basically how that works for the contract is every month, a portion of that or a 1/12 of that is part of the contract. But obviously we are spending in advance of you paying us for that fund. So, in essence, F&B is paying these bills, and then this will all be reconciled in August when the contract year ends. So, but we would keep this up to date for you so that you're aware if you need to make any budget amendments or if that's okay.
Yes, Mr. Reiner.
I had a question, and I don't know if it's for you. I noticed a couple of call outs to commercial buildings in February.
Yep.
Where freezing probably happened in abandoned storefronts.
Yes.
Peebles and Burger King, I noticed. I don't know what time and expense that ends up being for you, but is there a chargeback procedure on that to the water customer? Is that covered by the loss, the water that runs through their meter, and that be it?
Twofold in the two examples that you presented. The Burger King scenario, that was an internal pipe post meter. So that water loss was recorded. The issue really becomes one with the internal fire suppression system that is at Peebles and the standpipe failure. Fire suppression systems are not metered. And so I've asked Chief Robbins, everybody that's been on scene, what was the total water height? And I have stories of determining heights of 5 to 6 inches, upwards to 18 inches. The first to respond on scene, I believe that evening, was state police. They made entry and left a door open. So when you open a door that's holding back potentially hundreds of thousands of gallons of water, it's hard to have an overall height, because then you could at least calculate the volume by this, that's held within said building. So it's a unique mechanism, but no, long and short, meters through internal fire suppression systems are not metered. Those systems are not. So could be something that we could throw back at their insurance.
Well, I was just thinking the same
But-
thing, and you could send them a bill, but I don't know that isn't just automatically provided within the tax base. But it's certainly worth an effort,
It wouldn't, I don't understand why it would be
because
Part of
they're
the-
paying taxes to have fire services. But if you had mutual aid, it's a little different story. But it's certainly worth exploring. Do we have any ordinance language that allows us to do something like that?
nothing in our current water and sewer ordinance, although it'd be something to explore.
It's a
So maybe
slippery,
it's
it's
some,
a slippery slope.
yeah. So you're,
If I can comment.
yes, by all means.
Generally speaking, when you have a fire suppressant system, and Chief can probably back me up on this, that if it were to deploy because of a fire, obviously that would be the same mechanism as having to open a fire hydrant and use the fire to put out, or use the water to put out a fire. In this particular case, because it was an abandoned building and because of not isolating and draining that system, when it was abandoned, whether you'd be able to calculate that out and go back on the building, the property owner for restitution on that would be a little different. But normally speaking, if you have a fire suppression system, you don't have a meter because you don't want to cause a point of constriction in the water system. You want that water to be able to flow freely to put out the fire. But, that's the fire department works with us and also, that they generally track, when they have to open a hydrant, whether it's to fill the truck or to use it to put out a structure fire, how much estimated water that they use. And then that is accounted for as far as water loss.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for your report. Something to add to that, Chief?
Just a little bit. On a technicality, since we adopted the fire code, the building owners technically are not allowed to shut down a suppression system without the AHJ's compliance, which is simply notification. In the case of the People's Building, I don't see where that would have been a problem. Early on, had the owners or whoever presented to us, look, we'd like to shut this suppression system down because the building's going to be abandoned and we're no longer going to heat it. The premise of a suppression system is not to put out fire so much as to give the occupants time to get out of the building safely. And in that instance, and I back when I worked at the city, we did give certain businesses, when they abandoned a building, would give them permission to shut the suppression system down. There's a fine line there, however, between allowing them to shut the system down and then turn around and use the building, for instance, for cold storage, which changes its use group and stuff. But that's just something that chief and whoever the building official is can work with the building owners in the future to try to prevent that type of a loss. So,
You able to charge such a system, like if it's transferred from the public going in and out to cold storage? Are you able, since they're not heating it apparently, are you able to then charge the system with antifreeze or something?
that would be, no, not without some work. That as the system is designed, that type of system, you couldn't simply add, an
I mean, the
antifreeze
passing water
component to
that's
it.
in the system, I assume.
Sure. I see where you're going with that, but a problem we run into with buildings like this is people are constantly, as they're being bought and sold, they're changing use group, which also changes how they're supposed to be sprinklered. And that, lots of times that goes through the cracks. So somebody might buy a business and turn it into a mercantile or an assembly, in which case the suppression system should be
There's
re-engineered.
probably no check valves, as you said, you don't want restrictions in the system, so there's probably no check valve to keep the antifreeze from going back.
Right, but yeah, in the case of Burger
And that's
King,
municipal water. We don't need,
in People's both with the fact that knowing those buildings were not going to be occupied and or heated, had they asked or informed us that was the intent, we could have advised them to apply to shut the suppression systems down. So
Trustee Polly?
Just one quick question back on Peoples. Who paid for water?
Nobody, long and short.
Well, don't we?
Well, sorry, yes, that would be the correct answer.
That was my question.
We as a municipality pay the city for that water loss.
So we paid.
We pay.
We don't know what it is, but we paid.
Correct.
Suppose the antifreeze idea would then require the towers to be like a martini.
Yeah, what's the other thing you can do with, I'm surprised, do we have no dry type sprinkler systems?
we do, it depends on the type of business.
Okay,
So
I just, that would certainly be a way to mitigate that, especially in a winter climate, to have dry systems that if the link gets broken because of the fire, then.
yeah, what you're referring to is commonly referred to as a deluge system, that they have open heads. Yeah. Shut off the top. But again, that depends on the construction type of the building and what it's going to be used for. So,
Yeah, thank you.
Okay,
Make a motion. Go into closed session.
we have a motion on the table to go into closed session. Is there support? Well, yes, would you be friendly to removing that motion or at least reading the motion language?
Go ahead.
I move to go into closed session in order to one, discuss settlement strategy in the city of Alpena water and sewer litigation, and two, consider a related written confidential legal opinion from the township attorneys.
We have a motion on the table. Is there support? Do you support it? That's a wonderful. It's been moved and supported. Further discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Clerk Flavich, yes. Treasurer Ellery Summers.
Yes.
Trustee Kroll,
Yes.
Trustee Reiner.
Yes.
Trustee Polly.
Yes.
Trustee Lappin,
Yes.
Supervisor Skibby.
Yes, we're now officially in closed session at 12:25. You
So-
can stay. And everybody's back on. So we are now back into open session. And we are at our second opportunity for public comment. If you have public comment and you're in person, please stand at the podium and state your name. And you have 3 minutes, Mr. Ginter.
Thank you. I think this is the point I was trying to make in a conversation yesterday. These firefighters on the cover of this firefighter trade magazine are rescuing someone out of the second story window. I'm telling you, I can't prove it to you until it happens, but it's a mistake to think that it's not going to happen. This is what your township firefighters provided before the November election. They were available more often than the city. They were on scene more often than the city. It's a mistake to get rid of that for what I would say are a marginal amount of dollars. Some people talk about, I mentioned this before, a name on the door. The name on the door relates to providing and investing in your own fire department, nurturing them, getting people trained, having people available, because it's more under control. You're able to react to different things because of it's your fire department. You direct its progress. I mean, I almost cried. Mr. Kroll, he hit it on the head. Maybe not necessarily the part-time thing, but with the trustees or whatever. But I mean, there couldn't have been anything more pointed and more direct and more on target. I've checked a couple of different times about the city alpha units being in the station. They're out of the station the small amount of time I checked, 45 minutes at a time. This is the time that's critical for having. They're not here at the Township North as a fire department. They're here as an ALS service. It's a misnomer to think that they're here providing ALS when they first have to do BLS when they get on scene. The city contract price, I mean, 400, 300, 400, 500, what are you getting for that? If you divide it back by the 20 amount of fires, but that's not structure fires. There's maybe 4 or 5 of those. So they don't really have an overtime issue or an issue where they're going to call people in. This is going to be, I figured, maybe 2,000 to 4,000, maybe 2,000 to 5,000 in overtime. So for 5 or 6 house fires, even if I figure 5,000 times 5 event, that's 25,000. Why are you paying them 400,000? I mean, you're already getting ALS service that based on the taxable value of Alpena Township, you're already paying almost $350,000 for ALS service.
30 seconds.
Thanks. How can you, and here's the thing that I think it keeps getting overlooked. How do you run the place on 1 mil, 120 square miles, when the city runs 9 square miles, 13 times smaller? How do you run, they have 18 mills for 100 million less in taxable value. I mean, it's like the fire department. You can't keep running on 1.5 mills when you need 3 mills. Or Mr. Lappin said, maybe even 4 to put money away. I told the city last night in a board meeting or in a city council meeting that the best thing for the city fire department or the city themselves is a strong township fire department.
Thank you very much for your comments, Mr. Ginter.
I would welcome to meet with you, Mr. Reinhardt.
We can set that up.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
Yes.
Is there anyone online that has?
Do.
Yes, could you please state your name?
Beverly Banks.
Okay, Miss Banks.
Yes. All right. So I would just like to first and foremost thank Cash for his comments. And I hope that if anyone else gets anything else out of this meeting, that they really and truthfully do listen to what he actually has to say. Between him and Mr. Lappin and the hours and hours that I've seen that they have gone through, I think that they would probably be the best understanding and the best ones to lead us on decisions. I really appreciate Cash's words and the validity behind all of them. And I give the most respect and to his character and true support of his community. I would also like to present a possible thought process for the rest of you on the board that, every other board I've ever been involved in always gives like a monthly report on this is where we stand. And I guess this would be even more directed closest to our treasurer. I'm questioning why we do not have an exact report on where the financial stands on a month-to-month basis, much less all of our full-time departments, which would be the clerk and also our supervisor, so that we as the public actually understand exactly what our money is being spent on. I would also entertain and maybe even support the fact is that the part-time officials, maybe that's something we need to go to. I keep hearing over and over again that everybody is so concerned with our finances. And maybe if you can really and truthfully provide us with the fact is you need to be full-time, then I'll support it too. But right now, maybe we don't need necessarily full-time people. And I appreciate everyone who does the things that they do for this community. And Russ, I would like to also respectfully tell you that, you have been told several times about some of the services that we get. We have lost services with this presentation. And for example, like right now, you don't have 2 medics that are always assigned now as ALS to the Northside Station. You have 1 medic and 1 EMT basic. So that's 2 people that may respond versus, again, in the past, what we used to have was a dedicated 4 people response.
Thank you very much for your comments, Ms. Banks. Is there anybody else online that has public comment? Seeing none, moving forward to discussion. Is there any other discussion amongst the board?
I don't know if we discussed last time that the auditors were here. Did we talk about that?
No, we did not. Would you like to give
Just
a
so you
quick?
guys all know that the auditors were here 2 weeks ago. It's getting faster each year. They were here 3.5 days. They're still working on finishing things up. They haven't contacted me for more.
Chelsea will be back next week.
Okay.
So
We're working on the audit and hopefully it'll be done in July this year. And it gets less painful each year.
Thank you very much for the update. Is there any other discussion for the good of the order? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
We have a motion and support by trustee Polly. Further discussion?
So who made them?
Lappin made the motion, Polly support. Seeing no other discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Oppose the same. Meeting adjourned at 2 p.m. Thank you.